Setting up the retainer model. A lot of this is going to be pretty similar to the last section because we talked about transitioning from hourly and how to figure out a retainer. This is actually talking about what a retainer is and how to determine the retainer. So it's looking at it from a different angle, but hopefully by repeating a lot of this, it's going to start to become more clear because this can be confusing and I want to make it as clear as possible. So setting up the retainer model, I've explained why a retainer is important. It provides stability, scalability, and client satisfaction. So the whole point of this model is to help you understand how to transition a business to a retainer model and help them understand why it's so important and provides stability, scalability, and client satisfaction. And also helps us on our end as a business. So why retainers matters. Let's dive into that and actually help you understand if you don't understand what a retainer is and why that's so important to your business. So what is a retainer? A retainer is a pre-agreed recurring fee that a client pays for a defined set of services over a specific period, usually monthly. It's like a subscription for filmmaking expertise. So if you explain that to your client, most people understand how everything's shifting to subscriptions these days. It's basically what you're doing. You're a subscription service and they just know that it's going to be a fixed amount coming out each time and they're going to get what they need out of it. So the benefits for your business are it creates predictable income. There's nothing more important about that. And the whole point of this entire classroom and community is to help you have a great lifestyle. And if you don't know what's coming in each month, then you have an uneasy kind of scary lifestyle because you don't know what's coming each month. And then you're not able to determine, what your expenses can be and things like that. So that's super important. Also, it helps you focus on creativity because let's be honest, even on the other option where you do the monthly budget, you have so much extra work you need to do to determine that you're staying within the budget, where a retainer is like, hey, send a bill, it's that amount, and you can just focus and dial in and be creative and not necessarily worry so much about the money and be more creative, which is what we all want, right? So it also allows for scalability. So if you want to grow your business beyond what it is and beyond yourself, you need this consistent income and build these long-term relationships because you can't scale if you don't have these retainers because you might go and hire or buy new equipment thinking you're going to have money next month and you just don't get the jobs coming in that you thought were going to come in. So retainers are super important for that. So the benefits for the client, budget predictability. That's great for a business owner. Some people, companies that are more established, they just want to spend a certain amount. Companies that are newer, they might want to be more customized. Ongoing support. A huge benefit of working with a filmmaker consistently for a client is that we are going to learn about the founders, the marketing teams, the business, the brand, and it's going to become a well-oiled machine that we're going to develop over time to where there's less communication about what needs to be done. There's less feedback. It just becomes quicker. So then we're able to output more at a faster pace. So they're essentially getting more for their money. And then we're getting into deep collaboration with our clients, right? We're going to learn how to communicate with each other and become friends. And it just becomes super beneficial for the client versus like hiring a new filmmaker every month and just getting videos and not necessarily building a relationship that provides deep collaboration. So look at this quick reflection and then let's dive into how to calculate retainers. Similar to what we talked about in the last course, but we need to, now that we understand the benefits, we need to walk through how to actually calculate it because every client's going to be different. So in the 6-month onboarding phase, we're going to be tracking our hours and identify patterns. That's essentially what we're going to be doing. So we're going to start by figuring out how much time we need to spend on each project, the deliverables that they want, and we're going to start to see patterns that come out of that over the coming months. We're going to start to see an average, and that's how we kind of determine this number. And then we want to define the scope. So we're going to talk about deliverables. This is hard for me because not every company always wants 4 videos, always wants 20 social media clips, always wants 10 edited photos. And that's why I love the customized approaches on top of this or next to this is because it's gonna ebb and flow every month. I could see social media posts being consistent, but then you've got product launches, you've got campaigns, things that just come up that you're just going to need a customized approach. And so you want to fit into that. But some companies might just want this. And so that's where you want to specify the deliverables. So we want to figure out the services like pre-production, filming, editing, revisions, all that. Boundaries. And we want to set limits on the numbers of revisions or hours to avoid scope creep. Meaning so often when you work with a client, they want more, especially when you start to do a good job and you start seeing results, they're going to want more. And you need to be able to watch for that and if that's the case, you need to come to them early and say, hey, we're approaching a new budget. Like, you're asking for a lot more than what we are actually doing. So we want to get ahead of that early. And that's part of the whole communication that we just went through in the last course, that we want to make sure we're communicating and being on top of these things. So now here's an example of how to calculate the fee. Determine the average monthly hours, 50 hours a month, multiply by your rate, and then add a buffer. Just add 10% just to make sure you have a little extra. Then there's the option of adding different retainer tiers. So basic, standard, premium, self-explanatory, just to give them options about, how much they can spend versus how much they can dial back. How to transition clients to retainers. We want to move people off hourly and project-based billing to retainers, which just requires clear communication and strong value proposition. So we want to talk about the benefits, stability, efficiency, cost predictability. Those are huge for clients, so make sure they understand that. And then we want to share the data, all the data that we've gathered through our daily reporting and hourly projects. We're gonna share that with our client to help them understand. So here's a good example of what we just went through and how you would actually approach a client with that. And we want to provide flexibility. So let's try the retainer model for 3 months and reassess if needed. That's a great option, I think. And then you might find that you're going over, but just let it go over, knowing that we're going to reassess. And maybe you do go over in the next month, you come back to help your company out to make sure you're making more money the second month versus losing money again. If your workload changes, we can adjust the retainer to better suit your needs. So putting their mind at ease with flexibility. You can come into this and look at the real life applications that I've provided. Go ahead and look at this case study just to give an example of what that can look like. And basically 40 hours a month, $2,000. So now that we're at the end of this, we want to look at some real life applications. So I'm going to allow you to just go into the PDF and read these. Just get a good idea of how you would apply this to your business in the real world. So go ahead and look at these. And then on the next one, we're now going to be diving into monitoring margins with daily reporting. This is a fun part because this is something that we created to have that customized approach, but also make sure our margins as a business are healthy.